Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of Semi-Pro, where today we are going to be talking about the Netflix original movie Rise of the TMNT. It's going to be great, and we'll see you here in just a second as we talk about it. All right. Rise of the Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles are rising in this movie. Let me unmute you guys. Rise. They're rising.
Yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Ninja Turtles.
Whenever bad things happen to New York, we're gonna rise. We're fantastic.
Oscar-nominated sex offender James Franco.
What? What?
Huh? Why don't you just name drop James Franco and then start laughing?
Because he was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, and for sex offending. He was also nominated for that.
For the folks watching on YouTube, we're all wearing beanies today. And me and Josh have fashionable facial hair. Daniel too.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too.
Yeah, no, it's there. It's there. You look real close.
Yeah, I like when you get close to the camera. Let's all get really close to our cameras.
I'm not getting close to my camera because I'm pretty sure it will fall over. It is precariously balanced upon.
Knocking over a lot of stuff on my desk.
Yeah, it happens.
But anyway,
now
this
both
movie,
of our cameras are
we
unfocused.
watched. This movie did not star James Franco, unlike the Rise of the Planet of the Apes movie, which also has Rise in the name.
Got it. I was wondering how you got there, and I'm so glad to know.
Yeah, I was really curious about that one. I was thinking, did he voice a Ninja Turtle in some animated show that I've never heard of?
No, maybe, but
possibly,
probably no.
It's entirely possible and moderately likely.
Yeah. While we don't talk about this movie is about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Really? Is it, Josh?
As they rise. Yeah.
What are they rising to?
The challenge of defeating the Krang.
The Krang, yeah.
The Krang,
it's a nice little movie. It's apparently a send-off to a Netflix TV show that me and Daniel have never seen.
I don't think it was a Netflix.
No, it was like a
No, it was Nickelodeon.
It was a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
I think it's like an afterthought send-off. Like the show ended, and then because of that, they made this movie.
Like it got cancelled midway through,
right,
kind of thing.
I've seen several episodes of the TV show just to try because you know me, I'm a nerd. I love the Ninja Turtles. I didn't like it. I don't like the TV show that this is based off of. It's fine. It's for kids. I get that. It's just not for me. Like, it doesn't have enough to keep me engaged.
Right. Well, you aren't a kid.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So. Like, it doesn't have enough to keep me engaged and involved in the show. It's little quick, like... Oh, there's a
Quibi episodes.
The point of basically, they're like 10 minutes a piece. The whole thing is like they're a mutant. Like every episode, they fight a new mutant. Like that's kind of the plot. Like it's very mutant focused. I think the finale of the show was Shredder, and then this movie picks up, and this movie is one of the best Ninja Turtles media of all time.
Right. That's a general
it's
consensus.
Beautiful. It is quite
fantastic.
A piece of high
I will say
art.
the show looks as good as this movie does. Like the show is the animation in the show is great. It's just the story that's kind of lacking. But what's cool about this movie is it gets both.
Before we get into the story, which is correct, the animation in this movie is
it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
So good,
man.
It's the way we described it was like a Saturday morning cartoon meets Spider-Verse Spider-Verse but like 2D.
Yeah, I described it as Spider-Verse as if it were made by Japanese animators in the 1980s.
There's a lot of like anime in it, like especially the fight scenes.
But but most of the stuff that like I think my brain goes to Teen Titans, right? Which had a lot of that anime influence. Yeah. But the designs,
yeah.
when they would go to the anime influence, quote unquote, the designs would replicate that, right? This doesn't do that. The designs stay pretty Western, whereas the anime influence is more in the movements and the animation and that kind of stuff, which I think is a really it feels better to do it that way. It feels less rip-offy and cheap.
Yeah, well, it feels more of a natural mix and more of like an authentic send-off to that.
Right.
Right.
It's really the animation. We can't stress enough. If you're a fan of like nice looking animated things and don't care about story,
you'll love this.
You'll love this. If you do care about story and like the Ninja Turtles, you'll love this.
Yeah.
If you like the Ninja Turtles, period, you'll love this.
If you care about a good story and you like animation and you don't care about the Ninja Turtles, you'll love this.
Correct. There are different options for all the different people. Point being,
it appeals to
if you like cool, but you don't care about cool, you'll like
this. It's
if
cool.
you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, which is my favorite Jimmy Buffett song.
As we continue to talk about the animation, like we say, the story is also pretty cracked. It's pretty simple too. It starts off with what we like to call in the industry a flash forward.
Shut up, nerd.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Actually, this is a flash forward. Shut up.
Technically speaking,
I love that we keep doing that because Donatello does that. Donatello, not as nerdy in this movie as he is in the two Bay movies, but pretty great.
I would say he's nerdier.
I'd say
he's more technically driven. He's definitely not nerdier.
He reminds me a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I don't know that he's nerdier, but I think he's dorkier just in the things he says. Because he just says these dorky like not the same way that he does in the Bay movies, where it's like some crazy out there technical schematic who's what's it whatever. It's some dorky like phrase. It's like,
I will say,
you said it before.
Well, gobble my gooblings.
you said it before perfectly in one of the, I think it was the Bay ones. He talks like Jimmy
Drake. Yeah,
he talks like you'll say hey, can I get some salt, and he means don't you mean sodium chloride?
Don't you mean sodium chloride? Actually, technically speaking,
I will say in this one, I for whatever reason believe what he's saying is true more than the Bay ones. Like in the Bay movies, it feels like everything he said felt made up, where in this one it feels like it could be backed with real science.
I feel like he's saying less out there things.
All right, sorry about that. Technical things. We were talking about Donatello.
Testicle difficulties. Please stand by. Yeah, no, we were talking. We're Donatello, whatever. He's a nerd. So the movie 2049, Blade Runner.
The movie starts in the 2014.
Leo is big and buff.
And he's teaching a young Casey Jones who
Mikey is Sensei. Mikey's Yoda, and he's bald, and he's got old man Yoda
He's got
hair.
old man hair, which is great. I love that.
And he floats around.
He's got like little orange age spots on top of his head.
Yeah, little liver spots.
He looks like he did in Turtles 3.
Yeah, he floats around like a little magic man, little Yoda magic.
Yeah, he was he was like hovering around just like that.
But yeah, so I guess in the show and in the beginning, the present day of this movie, their magic power thing comes from their weapons.
They have these. So in the first episode, which I did watch,
it's magic weapons, right?
I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
So in the first episode, they're the Ninja Turtles. They're the normal Ninja Turtles, and the ooze that transforms them into turtles is less just like scientific ooze, and it's more like mystical kind of studying of radioactive technology.
Magic ooze.
So they're going to track it down. And they wind up finding this like layer of this dude who wears a big fancy mask, whatever. And when they find it, they find versions of their weapons that are mystical and magical. and they absorb those powers. So Leo, he has the ability to teleport. Michelangelo, like he can make his he really got the short end of the stick. He can make his nunchucks really long and like hit people with magical
That's pretty
nunchucks.
cool, though.
Yeah, but Raphael can make a giant version of himself, and Donatello is Green Lantern. He can turn his bow staff into whatever he wants, and so they all have these like mystical, magical versions of their weapons.
Yeah, but then Mikey can time travel.
Yes, Mikey discovers his mystical power is actually not even a mystical power. He's just a wizard.
A mystic god, yeah. Well, the movie starts off with adult Leo teaching young Casey Jones, who calls him Sensei, and they're losing the fight. Krang's
you really
like
that one detail, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's a neat. I think it's a neat little detail.
It is a pretty cool detail. Having Casey Jones be Leonardo's like protege in the future is a great idea.
His future apprentice. Yeah, it's very fun. It's very they're dynamic. Especially like once they come to once Casey comes to the present, it feels like Meet the Robinsons. You familiar with the film?
They all hated me.
No, but it does though, because it's like the
because he
the time travel and
everyone's like, "Hey Goob, what's up, Goob?" And he's like, "They all hated me."
They all hated me.
Yeah, it's all I don't know. It's a cool dynamic.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen that. Casey Jones is a really hard character to introduce into this dynamic. Because he's so like different. Like the Turtles are these teenage kids and they're whatever. And yes, you can age down April O'Neil, and they have done that in every iteration since 2003. Rightfully so, like because it's weird for a grown woman to be friends with a bunch of teenagers. Right. So they've aged her down. And you can kind of age down Casey Jones, but then it just feels like weird and unsafe. So having him be this post-apocalyptic, like student of Leonardo, who's become the greatest ninja of all time, is a really great way to introduce him into this. In the show, and we'll circle back to this at the end. In the show, they have a version of Casey Jones that's gender swapped. Her name is Cassandra Jones, and she was.
I wonder how these characters can be connected.
she's a member of the Foot Clan who turns good and then fights on the Turtles' side. In the show, and so like you can kind of do that, like Casey was raised by the Foot Clan, but they didn't do
which is why he got the skills,
right. Like you could kind of do that now. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rogan movie does something like that. I'm really curious to see how it handles. April is a teenager in that show, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Sure.
Keep doing that. It's hard to do that with both of them, but I think this movie
the
handles it perfectly.
That Mikey usually develops on April just a little bit more natural.
Right.
One of them
we saw how weird that was in the Bay
movies.
Yeah. But the war is lost with Krang, so they use their mystic powers, and Mikey sends
does the
Casey
magic
back in time.
Sends him back in time, but then using the magic mysticalness, he cracks and crumbles into a bajillion pieces.
He dies.
And
all the Turtles die essentially in this opening.
Dan, I love your pink light, by the way. I love your pink YouTube video.
Yeah, she's so drippy.
And then in the present day, Casey's been sent back to try and find the key. The key lets the Krang family out their prison, which allows them to take over the world. He's been sent back to that exact moment, which feels like you probably could have sent it back like a day or two earlier, but the movie works out. And he gets sent back to this period of time. The Turtles are doing their usual thing. Leo's trying to break a pizza box record, I think.
Yeah, pizza box. They're stacking pizza boxes on their head.
So they walk up the bridge with the pizza on their head, and he's going for the record of 125 pizza boxes, which seems kind of like a waste of pizza, which
Yeah, when he gets to the top, he just throws it down.
Yeah, it just falls.
It falls onto oncoming traffic.
Yeah,
and, like it kills some people.
Right, probably not that.
Probably doesn't kill anyone.
But yeah, so the turtles are doing their
he
turtle
goes up
thing.
to
Raph wants
the
to
turtle thing. He
Raph
wants them to be heroes.
Yeah, he wants to be
And they
heroes.
got
The rest of them make fun of
they
him
have
for
a they have a drinking game, but they're teenagers,
pizza
so they're not
biting game.
drinking. They eat pizza.
Right.
Where every time he
They
says
eat
heroes,
pizza
they take
instead
a
of
bite of
drinking.
pizza. Yeah, it's very very
Uh,
fun and quirky.
And so they go on their hunt. One what's his
Right.
name?
Hunt?
Warren Stone
Oh,
and
and the hippopotamus.
Hipnopotamus have stolen the key. They've stolen the
Yeah,
key that Casey Jones has been sent to find. So they chase them
right.
down.
The
We have like a
magic
neat
crank key.
little you get a neat little car chase sequence where the turtles
Yeah,
all use
very very
powers.
fun. Yeah,
You know,
Leo's he's like teleporting through the traffic. It's
right.
all
The big
all
thing is that
fun and anime like.
Leo never
Leo
communicates
is
with any other
impulsive
turtles.
and doesn't work as a team. He is
No,
not
he
the leader.
wasn't. Which is why
It's very much, and this was a bit, because I remember, I don't know how well you guys remember this, but there was a whole like Nickelodeon or no, they announced it at SDCC. They announced this at Comic-Con, this show. And when they announced it, I remember watching the stream, and I was a bit like, this is weird, because they announced in the stream that the turtles were going to be different than they ever have been before, and I was fine with the design differences. I was fine with everything. The thing that I was like, this is weird.
Powers.
Yes, I was fine with that. The thing that was weird was that Raphael was going to be the leader of the team, because Leonardo's only character trait is that he's a leader. Raphael has that he's angry, Michelangelo has that he's goofy, Donatello has that he's smart, and Leonardo has that he's a leader. And in this
that's
show,
all he does.
If you watch through some of the series, Leonardo is basically a slightly more serious Michelangelo. Like he's Michelangelo, but a little smarter. Mm-hmm. And this movie just goes to kind of like course correct that in an interesting way. But I remember when they announced it, I was like, this is weird. And apparently so was everyone else. Like, people were not happy about this. People did not like this show.
I can see why. It's quite a drastic change.
Yeah, no,
well,
it's a big difference.
The thing that's
but
so
I think
weird
it
is
works,
that it definitely works in this movie. I don't know that it works in the show.
So I can't.
Yeah,
I can't
for like a full length show, I can see how that probably would work.
For the movie, for like an origin movie, I think it works very well.
Having not seen the show, this movie feels like they would release this movie and then they would turn that into a show on Nickelodeon after the fact.
Right. This show, I think we mentioned this, or somebody mentioned this. It may have been me at the end. It might have very well been me who said this very brilliant statement. This show,
I think it was you, because me and Dan
it was probably you.
This show very much feels like a prequel. It feels like a prequel to it could be a prequel to any iteration of the Turtles. It could be a prequel to the 80s show, it could be a prequel to the 2012 show, it could be a prequel to the Bay movies. Like, this feels like it's a prequel. Other than the one line about them defeating Shredder, this show feels like it could be a prequel to any iteration of the Turtles.
Like, there's no like
even that could be a
I was expecting them to turn up in this film.
Who?
Bebop and Rocksteady.
I'm sure they were on the show. At some
probably.
Point.
I never saw them, but I only watched like 10 episodes. So they weren't in the first episode, they weren't in the last episode, and they weren't in any of the others I saw.
Right. So they weren't in it.
They may not have been, but they may very well have been. There's a lot of different mutants in the show, and I think they kind of steered away from doing the classic mutants, and they went with more like original stuff to sell more toys. But regardless, back to the plot of this movie. Josh is just on his phone.
Yeah, all right, whatever, nerd.
I was going to see if they were in the show, and they are not.
Oh, actually,
I think was it Toka and Razor who was in the show?
Oh, that might.
Are you asking on me?
I don't know.
Yeah, I got the snapping turtle.
I'm pretty sure I remember that, or maybe I'm thinking of the 2012 show. One of the two newest Turtle shows. It may have been 2012.
I feel like I do remember that in the 2012 one.
I think they had like they had Bebop and Rocksteady fight Toka and Razor, and it was great.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't think Toko and Meizo were in this one. I think
Okay, so they were in 2012. Either way, it doesn't matter. Back to the plot.
But anyway, this this fight scene happens to get the key, and ultimately, I don't know who it is escapes. I think it's just like I assume they're just random Krang supporters, something like that.
Well, it's the leader. It's the Krang. Well, they say later on in the movie, there's only these 3 Krang left. The rest of the Krang die.
Krang are a race in this.
Right. They are in the comic book.
Right. And it's only 3 left.
3 of them left.
They were imprisoned many years ago by other warriors who happened to have
let Dan finish. Let Dan finish.
No. They happen to have magical Ninja Turtle powers and the Ninja Turtle colors. Yeah. So yeah, the 3 that remained and that they imprisoned and escaped when Firehead Man was the normal Krang, Lady Krang, and Meatwad Danny DeVito Krang.
He's a short Krang, and he looks like Meatwad from Aqua Team Hunger Force, and also Danny DeVito.
He's like a little square version of Meatwad that also kind of looks like Danny DeVito in the face.
Out of all of them, he looks the most like normal Krang because the other 2 are kind of built like creepers. They're like big, boxy rectangles.
So what they do with Krang in the 2012 show, which is great. I don't know how we could fit 2012 show into an episode of this, but I would love to. Like, I would love to do that maybe next. I don't know. There might be like a crossover or something they did that would be cool to do, like a few episodes. But anyway, in the 2012 show, the Krang were a race, much like in this, and like the original comic, they were a race. But basically, the Krang that is from the 80s show is one Krang that got like kicked out of the race. Like, they were like, you're an idiot and we hate you, so we're gonna send you to Earth. And then he tries to take over the Earth because he's a Krang, and the turtles have to keep stopping him.
Right.
And that's how this tiny Krang feels, because he never speaks. Like, it could very well be that version of Krang.
Right. Yeah, well, it's like they one of them has like tentacles. The main one has tentacles. The female one has like crab legs, and then this one's got tentacles that like spread out and reach.
But
he's like a little frog kid.
He's like a little frog kid.
You ever seen a frog kid before, Doc?
They actually defeat him by getting the nets.
Yeah, they get one of those big dog catcher nets.
This is when the movie gets super body horror, because eventually, these guys ran off with the key. They release Krang, and it comes out. It's like, new world to conquer or whatever. And the Krangs are really like, they're made of, they're made out of tentacles basically, and they're just super gooey. And every time they step, they like spread all over everything. And they eventually,
it's like Venom, but the human brain.
Yeah,
and also chewed up bubblegum as Michelangelo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Michael Bay movie.
This is super niche. It's like the White Martians from the animated Justice League show pilot.
Shut up, nerd.
All right, man.
Are you wearing the same nerd?
No, I actually do know what you're talking about, though.
It's a Nirvana hoodie, and yes.
Yeah, bro has not changed clothes in a week.
While this whole opening action sequence was going on, April was talking to a professor, and she steals his card.
Who we should say is a teenager she's a college student in this.
I was gonna say, I think she's in university.
She's a college student in this. She was a teenager in the show, and I think she like graduated, went to college, whatever. But she's still tight with the turtles, and that's all that matters.
She's an investigator.
She doesn't have a ton to do.
She's there. She's whatever. She does ninja stuff sometimes. She's got ninja training. She has a little stick that she uses or something. I don't remember.
At the opening of this movie, she steals the professor's like ooze.
But she's being she's being the best version of Lois Lane.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The only important thing is that she steals this like bright neon blue ooze, and then she takes it to the turtles. But so when the Krang come out, the turtles.
And Josh forgot that she stole it.
Yeah, I did.
I kind of did too, but I at least remembered when it reappeared.
Yeah.
But the turtles have followed the key to where the Krangs get released, and they think, oh, it's just another guy to
because
take
Casey
on.
Jones at this point has come back and told them.
Yeah,
that
he
he's from
came.
the
He
future.
said the key.
They
said,
while
"Oh,
April,
whoops, we already lost the key." Ah, jeez.
So when Casey Jones
I'm
gets
a
back
title
in the
in a trench
past,
coat.
when
He
Casey Jones gets back in the
realizes he
past,
can't
he sees the
find-
picture and he sees the university or the college that April is in, and decides to go there to try and find her. And he does find her, and so she beats him up. And then takes him back
and she
to the
takes him to the
Turtles.
Turtles lair.
Right.
And then he explains that he's from the future and they're stopping an alien race. They all laugh at him, even though they're a group of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It's fine that they laugh at him. It's weird that April laughs at him. April's like, wait, what? Aliens are goofy? And it's like, you're friends with 4 giant turtles.
Right. Yeah.
And a giant rat.
Come on, get a grip, lady. Yeah, a rat that's fat, much no less.
I love Splinter in this, but we'll talk about that a little later.
But so he eventually says, like, the key's there, you need to go stop it, whatever. They end up going to where the key is to try and stop it, but it's too late. They open up the portal, the Krangs walk through, the Turtles try and take him on because they think, oh, we got this, we can beat him easily. But he, with ease, just takes them all out. And it like super easy. Benny, it's also pretty cracked because he just, because he's made of tentacles, he can just take them all out without even thinking about it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Krang is so threatening.
Yeah,
and this is where we started talking about.
At this point, he had already possessed some people, so they were all in the mix. There were some Krang dogs being thrown about.
This is also where he takes the mutants' mystical powers.
They lose their powers, which the powers were a big complaint of people of the show, I think. And so he takes their powers, and basically this movie is like, oh, all of the things you didn't like about the show, undo.
We're changing that now.
we're moving on. Like, you didn't like Raphael was the leader, we're going to make Leonardo the leader. You didn't like that the Turtles had powers, we're taking away their powers. But no, Krang is so threatening. Even down to his voice. I don't know who the voice actor was.
I looked it up. The voice actor's not like... He's not anyone major. I can't remember his name. But he does a lot of like bit parts and animation stuff. He's like go-to actor if you need a villain.
Yeah, whoever he is,
great.
He's fantastic. He does this really menacing voice that's also kind of condescending.
But it's kind of it kind of sounds like it's less like the Bay movie where it was like, oh, here's like Krang's voice, but a little more serious. This is like more serious, but it's also kind of like Krang's voice.
And so we said this before too, like. Krang's always shown as being sort of super smart and he has that giant robot body. But in this, just one singular Krang is already intimidating enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's just like Venom, he'll just overtake people like a zombie virus.
And even just the way he just his design it's so alien and it's so freakish.
His movements,
but also like
the way he moves,
so simplistic.
Too? Yeah,
like he's just like this square little thing, but it's so like
he looks
weird
like a Minecraft creeper.
He had gills, but he had gills.
Oh, his gills! Yeah, he opens up his gills, and that's when he takes the turtle's powers.
And he also, because he's got all like these tentacles, he's always like slithering around. It's fun. It's great. It's great. This is also where the movie starts getting super body horror inspired.
Well,
because
all the like Venom, the overtaking the people. Once
the powers get taken from the mutants, Donnie activates the self-escape.
They're whatever.
The teenagers.
The ninjas.
The turtles.
Donnie activates like a thing that essentially shoots everyone into escape pods, and then they all escape. But
this is where the movie really picks up. I think. Like this is the point where the movie goes from this is kind of fun to this is great. I think everything after this is so fantastic.
Yeah.
But so Leo, thinking he knows better, rejects the escape pod and he runs to try and grab the key because they need to get the key to lock them all back in.
I think he puts Casey in his.
No, Casey has a separate one.
Casey
because he just hits the buckle and jumps out.
Gotcha.
He just jumps out. He grabs the key.
But then one of the Kangs shoots a tentacle at him.
This is one of the hardest shots in the movie. I think
yeah,
You're
not
gonna hear
the
that a
hardest
lot.
because that's
You're
near
gonna
the
hear
end.
that a lot
Yeah,
later
right.
on.
That is true. But
Kang shoots
so
a
he
tentacle at
shoots the
him, like
tentacle.
straight forward.
Like,
But
oh my god, it's gonna
Raph,
get him. Then
who's
cut to
there,
black,
dives in
epic
front of him,
anime shot.
and
Yeah,
it like stabs through
goes.
his shoulder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And when he does that, Raph also gives him his like ejector seat, so he just shoots off
right.
while Raph gets held back and tortured. And
In
this is
true
where the body horror
leadership
starts.
fashion, like he
Right, like a
sacrifices
leader.
himself for his brothers, and it's such an emotional scene. And you see, like it does like a close up of
It's
Leo's
beautiful.
eyes, and they
Well,
get
it's like-
big
like-
and like
And
square.
oh my god, and it shows the close up of like Raph after he got hit, and it's just like this gorgeously lit scene.
Yeah, it's
This is
great.
well,
Like,
prior to this bit, like that exact moment, the movie's not so serious. It's kind of goofy. It's had like a serious
It's
moment
like-
maybe,
It
but
feels
it feels like a Saturday
more
morning
like a
cartoon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels
And
like a
then once you
Turtles
get to
cartoon,
here-
like a standard generic
Mhm.
one.
Once you get
Right,
to here,
yeah.
it feels like a movie.
Yes.
But this is where
This
the body
movie
horror
feels
starts,
more like a
as to-
movie than about half the movies we've watched on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Krang grabs Raph to try and interrogate him. And instead of asking him questions, he like puts his tentacles to the side of his head and goes under his skin to like
no.
And
read
you
his
see
brain.
like the veins raise up under his mask.
And like
Yeah.
like you see them come out from under his eyes and latch onto his eyes. It's grim. I love
it's
it.
nuts.
It's
The David
horrifying, is what
Cronenberg
it
fan.
is.
Yeah.
The David Cronenberg
Beautiful.
fan in me loved it.
Right.
Yeah, of
And
course
yeah,
you
so
did.
they all get back to the turtle cave and they're like, "Wow, we messed up."
Yeah,
We
well, so
really
they
messed
get
up.
there, and Casey is really upset because he's like, we failed, we didn't stop the Krang, like that was our whole mission, stop the Krang. And then Leo gets there. Donnie's just being his old goofy self. He's like, how did you like the escape pods? I made escape pods.
Yeah, no, first time using it. Yada yada.
You're right.
there.
But
One to
Leo
10.
gets back,
Right.
and Leo's
He's
in full
fucking
serious
distraught.
mode.
Yeah,
He's like,
he just
our
lost
brother
his
is
brother.
gone.
Oh my God.
How did
He's
this
gone. They
happen?
got
I
him.
watched him. I
Oh,
watched
nothing
him
matters.
get kidnapped.
Yada yada.
And he kind of turns on Casey for a bit, and he doesn't trust him. He's like, you knew this was gonna happen.
Right.
Why did you let this happen? Which, of course, Casey
Right.
didn't. But it's Ben Schwartz.
They
I want
don't
to shout
realize
out
that
Ben
yet.
Schwartz real quick because he's listening to the podcast. Ben Schwartz, voice of
Sure.
Sonic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sonic star Ben Schwartz.
I did not have high hopes for him as Leo. Like, I just didn't. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's fine in the show. Like, it's not something I'm a fan of. It's not for me. He would be great as Mikey, but he's playing Mikey as Leo, and so I'm
he
like,
has like an inherently goofy voice. That's
Right.
the thing that we're getting at here.
he handles that
Yeah.
scene so well.
It's fucking
When-
fantastic.
When he
yeah.
gets serious, it's so good because you feel like an actual intensity behind it.
Yeah.
That really helps with the character.
Well, it's
Mhm.
it's like you
Well,
don't
yeah, no,
expect,
it's-
given this movie, you don't expect this character to be serious, and
Yeah,
when he
no,
gets
it-
serious, it's like shocking.
Yeah, it contrasts that goofy, cocky, nothing matters, caution to the wind.
We have
character
magic.
so
It doesn't
well.
matter. We can make
Right.
it work. Raphael type mentality. It
Yeah, but now it's
contrasts
like,
it
oh my
so
God.
well.
which
My
ties in
brother's
well
gone.
because
My
the-
magic's gone. I lost everything.
Everything
doesn't
is
look
gone.
good.
You knew this was gonna happen. We have lost.
It's your fault.
What do we do now?
Yes,
It's your
this
fault.
is over. Everything's bad.
So,
Everything's
so
bad.
the turtles regroup and they realize that they need to go to the tower where Krang has set up base
Mhm.
because that's where he sets up base in the future, so they know where it is. They need
Yes.
to go there. They need to save Raph and they need to get to defeat Krang.
Right. Get the
And so-
key. Take the Technodrome back. Defeat the Krang.
But yeah, sentence all of the Krangs back to prison.
Get the key.
They're basically in the
stop the
Phantom
Krang.
Zone.
Get the key
uh,
stop screaming.
But
Say it back
so,
to me
So
now.
the turtles head off
What?
to do this, while April and Splinter stay back to try and work on the key.
Well, they try to destroy it, right? Like that's what they're trying
Yeah.
to do. This is
They're
a
trying
weird
to
B plot
experiment.
that I don't love, but it's fine.
They very quickly abandon it. It's just kind of there
Yeah.
to pad out because otherwise they don't really have anything to do.
Right.
And
Except for
while the
Splinter at
turtles,
the end, who goes crazy.
while the turtles are on the way to the tower, they're trying to figure out what to do, and this is where Leo starts to try and assume the leader role, because he's been told that in the future he's the greatest ninja to ever exist.
It happens a little earlier, because Leo is the one who tells them to go to. He's like, we got to go to the tower, and everybody else is like, maybe we should think about it a little bit. And Leo's like,
but he's
no,
no, I'm the greatest ninja in the world.
Ninja. We got this.
Casey says to him that he's the greatest ninja in the world.
Right.
Like in the future, that's his title. So he kind of gets a bit of an ego about it. And when they're on the way there, he's calling the shots. He says, we're going to go in the underground. We're just going to go straight through the underground. That's it. No arguments.
Donnie says, maybe we should try a different way because this is probably not safe. And Leo says, no, I'm the greatest ninja who's ever existed. Listen to me, idiot.
I'm the best.
In particular, Donnie says, this isn't the best idea because if something goes wrong, we don't have a way to get out.
Right.
So when they get there, something goes wrong,
and they don't have a way to get out.
Leo and Casey get trapped behind a wall of rubble, while Donnie and Mikey get stuck in the turtle-mobile. Then this is when Casey says, what was it? He goes on a rant about how
I remember
Leo's
the
not
line,
the greatest ninja in the world.
He spits a bar. He says, I was expecting the greatest ninja, or no, he didn't, not even that. He says, I was expecting my sensei, and all I got was you. And it's like, So
I just want to give a quick shout out to Haley Joel Osment, the child star from The Sixth Sense, and
sister or brother of the woman from Hannah Montana.
Correct.
Brother of Emily Osment from Hannah Montana.
What? Say it again. Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana. But he says, "All I got was you," with such venom that it feels so so hurtful.
Not only we haven't really talked about this, but there are so many great lines in this movie. There are so many great just bars. There's that one. Krang has a ton that I can't think of any off of the top of my head. But he just has so many good just one-liners.
So cold.
There's one, I think Leo says, we still have hope or protect our friends, and then he just says, a line for the fools or something. And I'm just like, what on earth? That's such a hard bar.
and Krang in this movie, none of us can give enough praise to Krang in this movie because he's so good on every level. But so
it might be the best version of Krang ever.
Yeah, quite possibly.
I think it's my favorite.
It's definitely better than Out of the Shadows. Although I love seeing Krang in live action, it's probably better than Out of the Shadows. It's definitely better than the 80s show. The 2012 show, the Krang are kind of like these buffooning idiots, but they're also super menacing. So it's kind of a different interpretation, but I still think this is probably the best version of the Krang that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
They're so menacing, and the main Krang, he's so menacing.
Yeah, bro's terrifying.
And this whole speech to Leo about how he's an awful person kind of makes him go, I kind of am a bit.
Well, he sees the picture of him and his brothers, and he's like, I not only did I get Raph captured, I also got Leo and Mikey probably killed because he doesn't know what's happened.
He doesn't know they're alive yet. Yeah.
He's like, I have failed as leader of this team. I failed as a brother. I failed as a ninja. I failed as a teenager. I failed as a mutant. I failed as a turtle.
I thought this family needed me,
but it
turns out I need them more.
That's a bar too, and Leo says
it.
Also, while this happens, some of the Krangs try to assault the turtle lair, which causes Splinter and April to drive away on a motorbike. And this is also where April finds out the little neon ooze that she took earlier in the film is able to damage the Krangs.
Right, you thought it didn't matter, but turns out it was a setup.
Yeah, Josh forgot. Josh didn't know what it was.
I meant you as in the listener or watcher of this movie, and me included.
I meant Josh specifically.
Right.
Both are very true. They eventually, Leo speaks a bit to Casey. He's like, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm going to be better from now on. They use the elevator shaft to get to the top floor, and Mikey and Donnie.
The lift shaft. They use the lift
Mikey-
shaft to get
They
to
use
the
the
top
lift
floor.
shaft. They go up to the lift shaft.
They go up to a top floor.
Mikey and Donnie are trapped in the turtlemobile, and they're like accepted that they're gonna die, but April comes in clutch.
Mikey tries to use mystic powers because he's been told that he has mystic powers and it doesn't work.
He gets told that he's the one who sent him back in time due to his mystic power. So every now and again, he just like holds his hands out and he's like, "I've got this," but it never works.
Yeah, but
Right, and Josh says in this moment, "I wonder what the payoff of this movie is gonna be."
And
he was wrong.
Moment,
yeah, it was. It had nothing to do with that.
I mean, it comes back up, but it's definitely not the payoff. This is not Michelangelo's movie.
Right.
No, but
I would argue that it was. I would argue that it was the payoff.
It's
of
a
the
payoff.
Movie.
I don't think it's
I would
the
say
payoff.
that it is.
We'll talk about this at the end.
It's not the biggest payoff, but I would say that it's the final payoff.
It is a payoff.
Sure, we'll talk about this at the end.
Okay. Anyways,
nonetheless,
he doesn't have magic powers.
He doesn't have mystical.
Or he does. They're deep in them, but he can't reach them because he hasn't had that emotional moment to propel them out.
April breaks the turtles out of the mobile and they start running up the stairs.
Have we
Leo
got
asks where they are.
Donnie Matrix scene?
No, we are not. We're very close. And Josh, you better speed it along. We're already at 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I just had to mention it.
Yeah,
You're actually doing great on time. Keep doing
It's
what
fine,
you're
I got
doing.
this. But yeah, so Leo asks where the turtles are, and they're running upstairs, and Donnie's saying all these things. He's like, "I'm going to triangulate your position using the stars and the suns and the moon in the sky." Hold on, we're going to. And the entire time, Leo is like 5 steps away from him.
Great bit.
He's right behind me.
It's a great bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and eventually they just go, "Hey, we're just here." And he goes, "I know, but I never get to use the algorithm."
Yeah.
I think it's Splinter. Splinter just goes or something.
Yeah.
And then Donnie says, "I know, but I never get to use my algorithm." It's great. It's a great bit to like lighten the tone because the tone of this movie is pretty down. Like it really is in a weird way.
Yeah, from here on out, it gets it's pretty serious because they find.
Well, up to here, it's been pretty serious. It's got a really light opening.
The whole thing,
and then the whole middle chunk of this.
I mean,
movie
even the opening was pretty like the actual opening was pretty serious.
Yeah, the actual
then it went
opening
straight to goofy-ish. Then
I think it's not super serious
again.
like it is super serious, or they meant it to be. But not having seen the show, not caring about these versions of the Turtles, like it doesn't.
Sure,
come
but
across as
even
serious.
just seeing a character die like that sets a serious tone inherently.
Nah, not if you don't care about him.
Right. Well, Dalton is a sociopath. It's worth mentioning.
Right.
So
True.
But while the turtles regroup at the top of the tower, they say, "Oh, Raph, he's literally right above us," and it turns out he's in a pod.
He's right behind me.
And we get to see weird goop.
Oh
Raph.
yeah, we haven't mentioned.
Well, we're getting there.
Shut up. We haven't mentioned Casey Jones's very cracked chainsaw hockey stick weapon.
The chainsaw hockey stick and his grapple
so
hook.
Sick.
His Batman grapple hook.
Grapple hook. He's like Spider-Man.
See, that's what this movie is so weird. It's one of the coolest versions of Casey Jones ever. Mm-hmm. Not only does he have the coolest Batman style grapple hook ever, he's got a chainsaw hockey stick. What? That's cracked.
No, that's insane.
And it's correct. It's so correct.
It's nutty.
Using that, they cut Raph down and they get him out of the pod. Mm-hmm. But then he starts attacking them.
Sick anime slice.
And they do the the slice and it goes like that. But Raph, once he gets out of the pod, he just starts attacking people. He's fighting them, and then Krang goop comes out of his eye and starts overtaking him like the Venom symbiote. So he's got one tentacle arm and one arm that's covered in Krang goop that has Wolverine claws made out of his size.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
What sound do those? What sound do the claws make?
No, they're not Wolverine claws made out of his size.
No, they're the size.
They're goop turned
they're not
into
made
size
out of the
on his hand. Which is so sick.
But they look like they're spiky, like they look like broken bone. It's very cool, very cool. But they're also goopy and brainy.
It's also
brainy
a great
goop,
implication.
Goopy brain, brainy
the
goop,
implication
because of the implication.
It's also a great implication that this Krang goop takes over your brain and turns you into a slave for the Krang, but you still keep yourself, which is way more horrifying. Like, if I'm ever turned into a zombie, if I'm just like my body is taken over by something, like if I'm a Last of Us zombie,
you don't want to be trapped inside.
Right.
Like...
If I'm a Last of Us zombie where like I'm just taken over by fungus and forced to move around, fine. That's cool because I don't know what's going on. But if I'm me and my brain is functioning and I am controlling all of these horrible things that I'm doing, that's way scarier. And the implication that his Krang ooze is creating size is way scarier because that's what it implies. It implies that he still holds on to this memory of who he was. Like, even little things like that, this movie does so well.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great, and it's also this scene is horrifying because you get to see the turtles react to their brother be this basically zombified mass, and it's really well done. I think this is also when Krang starts pulling in the Technodrome, which is a giant ball made of Krang.
Yeah, no, it's super cool the way that it's just like a big brain squid looking thing.
Yeah, and the turtles are all kind of taken aback by this new revelation that Raph is a Krang man.
As you would be,
Yeah. So
right.
They
if it happened to
again.
you, I would be.
Right.
I would be concerned.
I wouldn't know if it happened to you.
Yeah.
True.
But the turtles regroup and they're like, we need a new plan of attack. How are we going to win? And they realize, because they think that the timeline can't be changed. They've just lost at this point. It's all going to go through again.
Right.
But they realize the timeline has been changed.
They realized through a great Leo speech, which we were missing from the last Bay movie.
Yes.
Bay 2, we thought there was going to be a great Leo speech, and then it turned out he just
called his brother like,
we're not. We may be brothers, but we're not a team.
Yeah, and then he walks away. But in this, he does. He just gives the greatest Leo speech of all time. He's like, "Look, you may think we can't change the future." He starts preaching like he's doing a whole sermon. You may think we cannot change the future, but we've already changed the future. And it's great. Like, it's such a good, heroic Leo speech.
Yeah, and it ends with him basically saying, a ninja's greatest weapon is hope.
Which he said earlier.
Oh my god, that was the last thing that older big buff Master Leo said to him.
Leo would say in the future.
Whoa. Yeah. It's so almost like he's ready to become that version of the character.
You saying Big Boss reminded me. Have we mentioned in the discussion, I know we mentioned it while we were watching, that this would make such a great Ninja Turtles video game?
No, because we were getting to the point where we mentioned that.
It would, though.
Gotcha. It would make such a good video game.
It would.
Each act of this movie, which it doesn't follow, it doesn't follow a traditional, 3-act structure. Mm-hmm. It follows like a 10-act structure.
Right.
Like, there are so many acts in this movie.
Right. Yeah.
Each one would make a great level to a video game.
It really would. And at this point, especially, because the Turtles have a new plan where Casey Jones, April, and Splinter will go and, draw some Krang forces away. And they eventually defeat Danny DeVito Krang.
Right.
By crushing him with a wrecking ball.
As easy as it would be. Yeah. No. They're fighting Woman Krang.
It's Lady Krang that's chasing them.
Danny DeVito Krang is the one who's turning everything on to get the Technodrome in.
Right, yeah. Right, so while that happens, the Turtles were going to go and assault the tower.
They defeat Sweet D Krang.
Right.
Sure.
And so the Turtles go there. Mikey and Donnie are going to rewire the tower to send the thing back through the portal so that they can get it all back, while Leo goes to rescue Raph.
And this is where the hardest shot in the whole movie happens.
This is where, this is the Matrix scene. We started calling it.
It's so cracked. We rewound and paused it for like a good couple seconds. Good 35 minutes.
So as Donnie and Mikey get to the tower, they realize there's no controls. There's no buttons.
It's not a computer.
Big brain goop.
It's all organic.
It's organic, which is one of my favorite things that they do with spaceships in movies and stuff. I love when they do an organic spaceship because it's
it's very, very fun.
These people are way better than they're way smarter than us. We made computers. They made organic life into machines.
Right. Yeah.
And so when
so
Donnie realizes, he plunges his hands into the
Yeah.
organic matter, and he's like, "There's not enough connection. I need to
And
go
also,
away."
I don't think we've mentioned this yet,
No, we
but
haven't.
He's a
in
soft
this,
shell turtle.
Johnny is a soft shell turtle. His shell is like a tech shell that he built. So
Which
it's like
makes
you
so
gotta
much
take it
sense
off.
for
It's
Donatello.
so cool and it's so
such
quirky.
a cool
Yeah.
detail.
It's such a nice detail.
So
And
yeah,
so he
he's
takes
like,
off
I
the
gotta
shell,
take
and
it off.
Mikey's
No,
like,
don't
"Yeah, but
do it. Oh,
you're
you'll
gonna
be too weak. Wah, but
you'll be
wah. But he does it anyways, and he goes, he lays into it, and the goop sticks into his back,
Well,
and it just
he falls like this.
yeah,
He
he falls
falls,
back like Jesus, like Neo in the
Right.
Matrix.
and there's this one crack shot where it's like,
It
you
like
know, they're
dance.
silhouetted against the
Yeah.
light. There's
They're
some
silhouetted.
orange
There's
light
like
where
So
Mikey
cool,
is.
sunbeams. Like
dude.
it looks like a Minecraft
It's
ray
fucking
trace
gorgeous. Yeah, the
shader.
God
coming
rays
through.
coming in.
Yeah.
It's like there's orange light where Mikey is, and there's purple light where Donnie is.
Mhm.
It's so just simple and cracked.
Yeah,
And he falls
it's
into it, and
gorgeous.
he becomes part of the machine. Like his face
Right.
forms from
The
the
next
organic
line
matter.
is like he punches
I'm a
a Krang away.
spaceship.
And he goes, "Mikey, I'm a spaceship," and it's
Yeah.
great. Like
That's true. He is.
and it's so great because and this is something, and maybe I should say this for the ending, but I'm not. I'm going to mention it now. The thing this movie, every single turtle has an arc specifically for them that is done so well. Raph's arc is overcoming what it's like to be this leader and being able to breathe for a little bit.
And
Leo's
trust-
arc is
to trust his
becoming
family.
is becoming this
Right,
leader for
yeah.
the first time. Donatello's arc is becoming a spaceship, and Michelangelo
Sure.
learns how to master his powers. Like it's
Yeah,
all so
it's great.
specifically tailored for each individual turtle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all done so heartfelt and like well. Like it's
Yeah.
it's so
Well,
good.
so when Mikey becomes a spaceship, he sends the technodrome, like he starts to send it back
When
through
Mikey
the
becomes
portal.
a spaceship.
When Donnie becomes a spaceship, my apologies. And as this
You should
happens,
apologize.
Leo is trying to get through to Raph. He's fighting him, and eventually, like, he puts away his weapons, and he's like, you know, we're brothers, and I love you, and I will do anything for you,
Mhm.
and I'll do whatever it takes. And as they're fighting, Krang realizes the technodrome's being sent back up through the portal, so he pulls Donnie and Mikey like with literally just venom this time. It's
Yeah, no, it's straight
Yeah,
up
it's
venom. Like it's
black.
just black
it's just
goop.
like it's black goo instead of the purple goo.
Like it's slightly spikier, but it's like it's venom.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Venom
he
is
holds
spiky
them.
sometimes.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
is. But he holds them up, and Leo like puts away his weapons, and he just
Oh,
surrenders
it's
to
so
Raph.
good. It's such
Yeah.
like
And
an
he gives
emotional
another
scene.
Leo
If
speech.
I felt
Mhm.
emotions, I probably would have cried.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And Raph, this is when you get this. When Raph first became Kranged, there was like a reflection in a Krang eye
Mhm,
of all of the
yeah, it was like
turtles.
the green yellowish evil
Yeah.
eye.
And in this scene where he becomes Raph again, it's reflected in his normal eye where he sees Leo and he just sees Leo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
there's
then
like
he,
the
starts
reflection
fighting
and
him.
there's a
And
teardrop.
Leo
it's
says
beautiful.
like, I finally get it. I finally get what you were going through. I know we were fighting and I thought you were selfish and didn't want me to do what you want, but I actually understood you just cared about me and you were worried. And like and it closes it does the close up of the yellow eye, the horrible yellow eye, and then a tear falls from it, and it's like oh. It's
And-
not
and-
and that's not even the
Not-
hardest tear shot of the movie, but we'll get there.
Not
Right.
only that, but this speech is so invigorating. It gives them all back their powers.
Well, I
Because
think
they realize it
I think
comes from
Raph
within.
breaking the Krang
Well, Raph-
like
Raph-
whatever
Raph
gives them
breaks
their
out the Krang
powers
thing.
back.
Well, he breaks out the Krang thing, and then he tells Leo tells like Donnie and Mikey, he's like, Raph is fighting for us. We need to fight for him, and they all
Right.
start kind of fighting together. and
Because
they get
they're
the powers
all
back.
technically they're all being possessed by the Krang at this moment. Because we
Right.
didn't really mention
Right,
this.
yeah,
The Krang
that's
sees
true.
that the turtles are more powerful than normal
Than the
humans,
normal
and they want
people,
them
so
on their
they're like,
army.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then, but the turtles use their mystic powers and they start fighting back, and this is where we get one of the most cracked action sequences I've seen in an animated movie, because like light beams start shooting from all the turtles as they get all their powers back. You see like the red and the blue and the purple and the orange, as Krang
You say orange,
realizes what's
stupid.
happening, and then they all start fighting him with their powers again, and it's just like this is when we started comparing it to a video game, because we were like, this is like a boss battle kind of thing.
Yeah.
It does very much feel like that. Yeah.
It looks so cracked, you know. They're all using their powers. They're working together. They're just destroying Krang.
Them working together is so cool too. Like they're doing it so well. Like it's
well, that's the thing. So this entire movie,
it was so fun, and it was it felt so well earned.
Yeah, like, it was a genuine payoff.
Right. Yeah.
And it just feels so. It really did feel earned. That's the best way I can put it, because like they keep going, and eventually, you know, they keep finding Krang. The portal's nearly in the sky, and Krang hits both Donnie and Mikey to the point where they're like flying away towards Staten Island,
just to the ground to die.
To the ground.
Yes.
And Leo shouts to Raph, and he's like, "Go get them," you know. Trust me, which is Raph's arc in this movie, learning to trust Leo to be the leader.
Oh wow! And then he trusts him.
And so Raph flies after them, and this is where you get a super cracked Leo moment again, where he throws one of his swords, which is how he teleports. Krang dodges it, like effortlessly.
This is where he says like we're heroes or whatever, and where Krang comes in and says, a word for the foolish or something, a phrase used by the foolish or something. And it's so hard. He's like, Leo's like, we can still win this, or we can still save them, or have mercy, or something along those lines. I don't remember what Leo says, but Krang's line where he's like, a word used by the foolish will never leave my brain ever.
Yeah. It's so cold. It's great. And then he grabs Leo and he's like, you missed. And then Leo, using his teleportation skills, is just like, I was aiming for that. No, and he teleports Krang.
No, it's not even that. He throws it, and then there's like a whole 2 or 3 minute fight. And then he stabs Krang in the leg, and Krang says the bar, where he's like, a word used by the foolish, and he says, well, what you don't realize is I missed on purpose, because normally you would do that and then immediately have the I missed on purpose line, but they put so much time in the middle that you sort of forget he lost his first sword, and then it hits, and it's like, it's such a great payoff.
As that happens, Casey Jones has been like running to try and get to the Turtles and trying to save them, and so Leo teleports him and Krang to the other side of the portal, to the prison dimension, and he yells
just
at Casey,
like the Avengers.
Just like the Avengers. And he yells at Casey, and he goes like, trust me, turn off the portal now. So Casey does it, turns off the portal. Krang and everyone, Krang 1 is left behind in this prison dimension.
The other two are dead, I think.
Yeah.
The woman one's still alive, I think.
She's still technically alive. There's a scene at the end where they're like loading her.
What happened to Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito, Krang got killed, I think.
I think he gets killed in like the fight, the big boss fight. But yeah, so Krang gets left on this other prison dimension, and he just starts beating the shit out of Leo.
It's wild. It's like, you think you've won? Now all of my rage is to be expressed on you, and he just starts like smacking him.
Yeah, he is whooping this kid.
And while this is going on, we cut.
There's one scene where Leo, like, he throws Leo on the ground, he pulls back for a punch, it cuts, and it just shows Leo being sent through like 4 different.
The animation here is so great. We cut back to the other three turtles. And Mikey, they're all upset. They're like, "Oh no, Leo is dead." Whatever. And Mikey, he's crying, and he's trying to open the portal. His hands are out forward. He's like, he's like, Casey said I could do this in the future. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it for Leo. And it cuts to like, it's like a over the shoulder shot. You can't see his face. You just see his shadow on the ground and his arms out, and you just see teardrops just hitting the concrete. That is one of the most emotional shots I've ever seen in an animated piece of media ever. Just Mikey's tears hitting the concrete.
That's cinema right there.
That's what Martin Scorsese was talking about.
Yeah. While he's opening this portal to Leo, he starts cracking like he did at the beginning of the movie where he died. But this time, Raph and Donnie both grab his shoulders and they're like, "Hey, we got this. We're family."
Teamwork.
He says something like, "Leo didn't give up on us, so we can't give up on him."
So he said, "What would Vin Diesel do?"
Family. And so they start cracking. But the portal opens and you see Leo and he says a quip, what took you so long?
No, he goes, it's the callback from before, doesn't he say that? Or was that when he was up there?
What was
that?
the callback?
The thing? The his catchphrase that he says.
He says that when he teleports him and Krang into the portal. He says, "You just got portal chopped" or something.
Right. Yeah.
But here he says it's it took you guys long enough or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Took you guys long enough. And so Raph reaches out with his giant
right. Yeah. He has the Green Lantern.
This is where you get like the team working together because he grabs Leo and then Donnie sends a drill over to Krang.
He sends his Green Lantern drill.
Yeah.
They pull Leo through the portal as the portal shuts and Krang just flies through and you see him flying through the void. It's beautiful.
This is the point where I think I said to you guys, I didn't know that I needed the turtles to have mystical powers, but I'm so glad they do.
It adds so much. This is also like, we didn't mention this, but there's a great part when Leo's getting the shit beaten out of him in the void where like Krang just punches his face and it's just a close-up of his mouth and it cuts to the photo of his family that he has where he's just looking at it and he starts grinning and Krang just starts yelling at him for grinning this whole time and keeps beating the shit out of him. It's so emotional.
So Leo is saved. We get a neat little like scene. April's like
they rebuild the city.
Yeah, they rebuild the city. There's a selfie that they take. And it's a recreation of the original picture, but this time with Casey in it. Right. And then Casey's holding the phone, and he says, "Oh, you got a text message from somebody named Cassandra," and it's Cassandra, who is Casey's mom.
Oh my God, Cassandra Jones!
And he goes, "Oh no, that's my mom!" And then the credits roll. And that's the end of the movie.
Situation.
Well, no. Raph bets Leo he's going to break his pizza.
Right, I forgot about that.
And then the credits end.
Yeah, that.
But yeah, this movie is so cracked in literally we didn't even talk about the music, which like halfway through
the score is great.
The score's fantastic.
Here's what's so weird.
Angelic.
I love the Bay movies. We established that. We watched them. I like them.
Of course.
This contrasting with the Bay movies just shows what they could have been.
Yeah.
Like this is
the wildest thing about this. This is a Netflix movie to finish off
an unpopular, not well liked version of the Turtles.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy because it just shows that you can take this weird, outlandish concept of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and make a good, serious, well-done story. And it doesn't even have to be grounded,
and also give them magic powers.
Right. People quote the first movie all the time, and they're like, that movie was grounded. Like, you can do a grounded story with the Turtles.
Sure, of
course,
you
can.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to. And this is probably story-wise, if we're basing it strictly off of like the story, the emotion, the second best Ninja Turtles movie outside of that first one. And it's like,
it's up there for sure.
It's so good, and it shouldn't be.
There's no element of this film that lacks. Like the characters perfectly written, the acting perfectly done, the sound perfectly done, the action incredible, the visuals absolutely beautiful, the plot perfect. Like it's great in every way. And it's the Turtles movie that I didn't know I needed. It's
not a traditional normal Turtles movie. Like, the characters don't line up exactly with how they are. The designs don't line up with exactly who they've been. Splinter's completely different. Everything is changed. It's the thing that comic book nerds hate. Everything is changed. Everything is different.
It's fantastic.
That's what makes it better, though. Because, like, with the Turtles, because they're so iconic and because they're so, like, almost simplified, there's only so much that you can do with that original formula. The original formula of, Leo's the leader, Raph's the angry guy, Donnie's the smart guy, Mikey's the goofball, and then there's Splinter who trains them. Like, there's only so much variation within that it's crazy when you change just tiny, tiny little things. Like, you make Raph the leader, you make Krang threatening without the smarts.
You make Splinter fat.
You make Splinter both fat, lazy, and always wanting a snack.
Right. There's a great bit where the Turtles are fighting, and he's got popcorn, and he just starts eating.
Yeah, he's just munching on it. Yeah.
This movie is so good in so many ways, and in so many ways that I wasn't expecting it to be.
Yeah, so a little backstory, and we got to wrap this up. Little backstory. I heard about this movie. I decided to watch it while I was working or something. Like I was doing other work. I watched this movie. And even from seeing it as background noise, and I didn't absorb a ton of it. Like I even told you guys, I thought the movie ended here, and there was still like 45 minutes left.
You thought the movie ended about 20 minutes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't remember a ton of this movie, and I told you guys, like, we have got to watch this for the podcast because it is one of the best Turtles movies. And I think that even more now, having seen the whole thing and actually paying attention to it, this movie is, if you are a Ninja Turtles fan and you have not seen this movie because maybe you didn't like some of the stuff that you read about Rise,
maybe
whatever.
because you're a nerd or whatever.
Right. You need to watch this movie because it's one of the best Turtles things I think that has been made.
It's genuinely like if the Seth Rogen Turtles were based on these versions, I would be probably more happy than I am with the current situation of it.
And I'm really happy with that.
And I'm very excited for that.
I
monumentally.
I would love to see a sequel to this movie.
Yeah, it will never happen, but
it won't. Like I say that I would love to see a sequel to any live act or any movie version of the Turtles. I would love to see a sequel, except for 2008. I don't love 2008. Movie. I would love to see another Bay movie. Yeah. I would love to see a continuation of the 90s movies. I would love to see this one, but I think this one tops my list because I think there's so much potential to explore after this movie. But it's so, and the animation is so great, and the score is so great, and the story is so great.
It does like a great back and forth between being this goofy cartoon, these are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that are hard to take seriously, but then also, in an instant, switching to this serious, heartfelt movie about brothers.
Story, yeah.
Right, and it does that so well.
It's goofy, wacky characters. These same characters we know and love in a serious, dramatic, heartfelt story, and it's beautiful, and I love it.
And it focuses so much on the fact that they're teenagers too. They more than any other iteration feel like teenagers.
It feels like it's a teenage. It's teenage.
Where the Bay movies walked in that regard, these movies run.
Yeah. No, it feels like a classic coming of age story. Like specifically about Leo, obviously, but like with all of them even. Like they all have their classic, Stand By Me coming of age, walking down the train tracks.
They
finding a dead guy, whatever.
Have their own arcs, like we mentioned
Lost
earlier.
Boys,
But this is very much Leo's
Outsiders,
movie.
Stay Golden Pony, Stay Golden, Legends of Tao. It's pronounced Tao, actually.
This is very much Leo's movie too. Like,
yes,
and I want to make sure that that's mentioned. This is Leonardo's
right. Well,
movie.
Of course you do.
Like it just is to the extent of like he might. I don't know. He might as well be the main character, and I love that. As a Leonardo fan,
he essentially is. For all intents and purposes, he is.
And he has not been the main character of any of the Turtles movies so far, right?
Yes,
I would argue Raph is the main character of the first movie. I would argue there is no main character in the second movie. The third movie very much feels like Mikey and Donatello.
And kind of Raph.
Or Raph, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
The first Bay movie feels...
That's again a Raph movie.
Well, I would argue that the first Bay movie is an April O'Neil movie.
Yeah.
The second one...
It's a Will Arnett movie.
Right,
yeah,
it's a Will Arnett
movie.
Yeah, and
point
same
is,
with the
though, this
one's
movie...
a Leo movie. Sure.
Yeah, this movie fleshes out Leonardo's character more than any piece of Turtles media ever has, I think.
Which, in theory, Josh, means that the Rogan movie's gonna center around Donnie. So good for you.
Yeah, big things coming.
It's crazy because Leo is the one with the least character, out of the original four.
Yes,
he's the one with the least character.
He's literally just the leader. That's all he is.
Well, there's no arc for a leader. There's no way to give an arc to somebody who's already established as the most leader.
His arc every time is just, hey, trust your brothers, and he goes, oh yeah, you're right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
But then in this one, they went, what if he was also a goofball? Which in turn makes him have to step up to
and
be
it's
the
so
leader.
weird because it feels like they wrote this movie and then wrote an entire TV show as a setup for this movie because that's his character in the show.
Yeah,
but that's not the case. The case is that this is course correction for that, but that's how it feels.
Right.
All right, we gotta wrap it up. We've went about 10 minutes over, but we need to. Final thoughts, Daniel.
I
really liked, fantastic movie. I really liked, since I didn't mention it, the main Krang's design. He gets like this cool giant like bone monster freak thing where the Krang head is in like the stomach. Fantastic, beautiful, love it. Loved the film. Good times. Yeah. What about you,
Josh?
10 out of 10. Love the body horror. That's
of course you did.
Movies are just about perfect in every way. That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is one of the best versions of the Turtles we've ever seen. The animation is fantastic. The score is fantastic. I just there is no part of this movie that I feel like is lacking in anything. And I'm so glad that we had the chance to watch it. This movie was not caught lacking. There's nothing that felt like it slumped. After the 20-minute mark, the first 20 minutes or so are kind of like generic Turtle stuff, but everything after that is just so great. So definitely check this out if you are a Turtles fan, or if you're a fan of Rise and you haven't seen this movie for whatever reason, whatever. But if you are not, I would still recommend you check out this movie because it's great. We will see you on the next episode of Semi Pro. Hope you guys have a great week. See you next time.